So the first episode of the mouthful that is Produce 101 Japan Season 3 The Girls has just premiered in English. And this came several days after the Japanese broadcast, and apparently it's going to stay up for like a week before being taken down. So I don't think I need to say this, but I'm going to be giving spoilers, and sometimes I do slide into recapping the show a little bit, and I feel like sometimes it's necessary, but sometimes it's just an old habit. And so I'm going to resist that habit, and I'm really just going to try to discuss and give my thoughts on things that stood out to me in this show. And so, out of personal curiosity, I've already actually pre-ranked and graded the girls based on their 1 minute intros and the Leap High fan cams. And if you've been following that, you already know that I've done that, and my videos are up. And I do this just so I can see and figure out the small clues that can maybe help people predict how well someone's going to perform in regards to looking at sincerity, confidence, and stuff like that. And so that's just what that is all about. And so when I say I pre-ranked them, or I'm talking about my rankings, that's what I'm talking about. But it's not really comparable directly, because in this show they get ranked on their skill or their performances. And so when I just compare them, it's not really saying it's supposed to be equal. It's just saying that I'm just trying to see if confidence levels, sincerity, and stuff like that dictate whether or not they perform well or not. And so I also made a top 11 based on that, and most likely that's going to crumble in eliminations because I never guess the way people vote. But anyways, going into this episode, everyone's going to get a clean slate from me. I don't even really remember what I gave people on those 1 minute intros. And so let's just see what happened, and we'll just get right into it. So first of all, I really like that this show is kind of hosted by a Romulan-looking woman. Her name is Chimera Kayla. Apparently she is famous, but in general, I don't know anything about her, and so I just know that people revere her, and so that's good enough for me. I like so far about this show is that they have this kind of Japanese aesthetic with the graphics and sound effects, and it's like little things going in. It's actually more over the top than they would do on the Korean version of these shows, and so basically we're going to be seeing some patterns from kind of Japanese style shows. And I like how it starts off here, like we're not even 5 minutes in the show, and they have product placement. That might be a new record. So let's go to our bingo card, and I'm pretty sure we do have product placement, and it's right under me, so you guys can't really see it. But let me just zoom in here. Right there. Under my hat. Let's just arc that off. And so, the first girls to come out, there's 6 of them. They're the Mido girls, and from here we can see that this group is kind of really diverse, and we can see from the staging as well that the auditorium seats, they're numbered in advance. So I don't know if they're gonna force the girls to sit. At this point, I didn't know, at least, that if they were gonna force them to sit in their spaces, but it turns out it was kind of like just testing the girls to see where they think they were, because they had no idea what their actual ranking was. But the girls, they seemed to be polite at first, and no one really took the first seat. And it seemed like, yeah, they were supposed to guess their ranking. But the funny thing is, as soon as they sat down, it actually got them to pull off the sticker on their cards, and also showed on the big screen what their ranking actually was. And so I thought that was interesting. And then after that, the next group came out, and it was the beginners. They all had the same jackets. And when I saw that, I'm like thinking, okay, so these aren't just trivia based or regional based. These are actual teams. And yeah, they may be regional or trivia based still, but they weren't just arbitrary. Like, the teams were selected, and they're actually coming out as teams. And so these girls, their team names, they're based on people who are going to perform together. But one thing that I also noticed, that in beginners, these girls have no experience at all. We find that out later on, and they were actually ranked pretty low. And so that's something I noticed. I didn't think the team name beginners meant anything, but then later on it kind of made sense. So after the youngest team was shown, and this is like a few groups later, they showed Little Heroine, which was a group of theater and performance art girls. They're all actresses, but what really interested me here is Nakano Kokona. I have her as 7th, but in this ranking, she actually got 11th place. Now, at this point, it kind of doesn't make sense for anyone to take the first seat, because from my perspective, I'm thinking these girls already did the signal song, but apparently they didn't, and so they actually didn't know who was going to be the top, and so choosing the top seat was kind of a very bold thing to do, and so Kokona, she was very bold in that she took the first place spot, and so that's brave. But at the same time, I looked at that and I'm thinking, she really had a number 11, which would make for a really intense reveal. Like, people were thinking, oh, am I going to be first place? Or is it going to be 11th? Like, you wouldn't know. But it makes for a drama. And so when I saw this, I was like, a producer definitely encouraged her to do this. And it would give that whoa effect as well. And so for me, that makes sense. And obviously, Coconut is going to be the subject of some very interesting staring contests, and some of them were really intense. I'll get into them a little bit later, but she basically had a winning streak of like 5 girls for a moment there. So eventually we get to Koto and Yui, and Koto challenges Kokona to a staring contest, and so did Ando Yui. Interesting, because I could tell that Kokona, she was feeling a little bit nervous, but actually she held her own. So after that, Kawabata Ranka also tried to take on Kokona, but she couldn't manage. She ended up breaking. And at this point, like, Rank is not even ranked very high on my rankings, because mine are based on sincerity and confidence. And, in the end, Kokona beat her as well. And to me, it's like about stability and confidence. So when Eyecatcher came out, so this group came up, and, Kokona, she actually stood up and made room for them. And she was kind of nervous on the side. And the show was kind of playing it up as well. They're like, I don't know if they're making the sound of her heartbeat, but they gave you that feeling like she was actually really nervous. And these girls, they actually had really good rankings as well. And some really had no idea before it finally revealed at the end. But, in the end, none of them challenged her for the seat. And so, luckily, she didn't have to take them on. Now, I want to highlight this one group called Vitamin Bomb, because it has one of my tops in there, which is Keiko. Now, Keiko, she's got a really, outgoing and funny personality. And I think that she's going to be, doing a lot of really, outgoing, funny things. And then there was another team called Team Nana. And I was kind of surprised that there was no one named Nana in that group. It was just girls whose first name ended with Na. And so there was 2 of them. And so I expected Okamura and Nana to be in this group. And I was kind of wondering if that was going to happen. After that was a group called Yummies. And I was looking at this, and I feel like this is the cutest group so far. They just have that cute girl look, like Girl Next Door look. And it turns out these girls are actually named Yummies because they're all restaurant workers, which is kind of par for the course of my tastes. And then there was a group called Remember Me. I predicted that Sakurai Miyu would be in here when the name came up, but then she wasn't. And then all the people came out, and everyone seemed to recognize them, but I personally didn't. But they were ranked quite highly, and so that was a surprise for me, because I don't know anything about these girls. Apparently one of them was on Girls Planet, but I didn't recognize her either. But apparently they're all from groups. Some of them are even from I think America's Got Talent or something like that. But yeah, that was interesting to me. And now there was another group called Twinkle, and I wasn't expecting this, but people seem to expect it. And they said, oh, it's a group of twins. Now, I've been joking about these girls and how they're not exactly equal, and there's a certain vibe about it, but one of them is definitely better than the other one. I don't know if anyone's going to agree with that. I don't know if it's mean to point it out, but in my opinion, one of them just you vibe check it, and they glow more than the other one, and I think they're more skilled and more confident as well. But only I would really pick up on that. And then after the twins, there's a group called Cool Girls. And my number 1, Okamura Nana, is actually here. And she's top from the pre-ranking, mostly based on sincerity, which is the highest I gave anyone. I think level 9 sincerity. And then she's also my she's also really skilled as well. But she ranked 80 here on the show in the pre-rankings. I don't know who ranked her, but she started at an 80. And so I was kind of surprised about that. And then finally comes Team Wing Bell Moon. And Sakurai Miu is in this group. And you know, she's from Neezy Project and Girls Planet. Now, when you go back to my old notes from Girls Planet 999, it very clearly says about Miu is that she's really good, but she needs to stand out, and there's something wrong there. Apparently, in her free time, she's trained with New Jeans in some capacity, but the contestants, they saw her and they knew her right away. Now, what's interesting is that she actually ranked 51st here, and that's when I started to realize that this seeding event was basically before the Signal Song rankings. And so I don't know where these rankings come from or who did them, but her getting 51st, but then later getting lead in the Signal Song, that was interesting. I don't know. That was just, I didn't expect that. But that's when I started to suspect something was different with regards to how they ranked these girls. And then the next group, Rebloom. This is worth mentioning because Kasahara Momona is probably the one with the most online fan support so far. And, you know, I've just like every now and then I check the Produce 101 page and I see that she's just overflowing with just viewers. And so her and Kato Kokoro, I guess the term Rebloom means they've already debuted before, or at least they have a huge fan base already, and people are expecting a lot from them, and so they're kind of like idols that are going to rebloom, I suppose. And so this is like they're pre-established, and a lot of people are looking forward to. A lot of people expect things from them, and they already have fans, and so I don't know how much fan support will play into the actual rankings, but I mean that's a huge advantage as far as I'm concerned. Now, something interesting also happens here is that Momona challenges Kokona for the first place seat, and they do the staring contest thing. And so, you know, I have Kokoro ranked at 52, but here she ranked at a 9, and then I have Momona ranked at 21, but she got an 8 in the show. But Momona at 21, I would guess, doesn't have confidence levels on the level of Kokona, who I have at like a 5 and a 6. It's either 5 or 6. I can't remember right now. But that means that my guess is Kokona would have beaten Momona, and then she ended up doing it. And so Kokona definitely beat Momona, and you can see here in the staring contest, Momona broke. Should happen right about now. Yeah. 2 minutes and 57 seconds, which is really impressive because at this point, Kokona has taken on like 6 different people. So I don't know if there's such a thing as staring contest fatigue, but that definitely happened. Kokona is just strangely unstoppable. And so the next team is Aoharu. And these girls all seem like decent girls. One girl in this group is Reina. Reina is actually my number 5 ranking. And she knows Kokona, who I have ranked at number 6. So this is crazy. Now, in my true rankings, they're actually equal in numbers. But I just gave Reina an edge because you still got to sort the people who have even numbers. And my rankings aren't that precise. The numbers don't allow for it. There's not enough precision. So I just put Reina above Kokona, which is interesting because Reina challenges Kokona. And this is one of the wildest things you will ever see. Remember, their score, according to me, in terms of their sincerity, confidence levels, are basically equal. I just gave Reina the advantage, just because I vibe checked it a little bit, you know? I give them, she's literally 0.1 higher than her. And so this was a battle that I was really interested in. But according to my rankings, Reina should beat Kokona. And so they start the staring contest. And Reina's eyes are wide open. And I'm thinking, why are they so wide open? If you start at that, you're playing on crazier intensity, right? And so chat's like looking at this and they're thinking that Reina's gonna lose, and everyone's cheering for Coconut, by the way. But in my scores, I have to cheer for Reina. And then the tear starts dropping down her face. And chat is saying that when the tears are falling, that means she's losing. But I'm like saying, no, that means she's lubricating. In fact, if she can lubricate both eyes, she'll be way more relaxed. And then I noticed another tear falling from Coconut's eyes. And it's only one tear on one side, which means the other side of her eye is dry. And remember, tears are an advantage here. And so this goes on for over 6 minutes. And then, finally, Coconut yields to Reina. And my rankings are totally and utterly preserved. And so that was very interesting. That was the most intense thing that happened in the show. Reina won. And I don't look like a fool for putting her 0.1 points above Coconut. But I feel like they're both really strong. And I'm glad they're in my top 11. So something happens here, which is that Ebihara is ranked number 1. And I can kind of see this coming because I always hear people talking about her. Now, I'm not sure if she's getting all the views on the videos or anything like that, but I always hear her and a lot of people seem to like her. And so her getting first place is really interesting because it kind of gives insight as to how these rankings might actually be working. It may be like a congeniality kind of thing, but I noticed that a lot of people really liked her from her performance. And so I don't know if this had to do with views, but I feel like that stuff all came after this was filmed. So I have no idea what's going on there, but some people seem to at least relate. And so that's something to be said about the public and their views on things. And then after this, we end up seeing the coaches or the representatives. And so the first one we get to see is the host, which I already mentioned before, Kimura Kayla. Apparently she's a singer, and I didn't know that. And then we're interested to more vocal coaches, Aoyama Thelma, and then Lee Hongyi, this guy. I don't know anything about these guys, by the way, but these are just the vocal coaches. And then we get to the dance instructors, and we have Nakasone Rio, and she's hilarious, by the way. She keeps saying, you know what I'm saying? Now I'm saying. And then we also get Yumeki, who apparently participated in Itzy's stuff with this guy here. And then there's one final guy after this who is Ken the 390, who's like the rap guy right here. And so he does I guess he's going to coach them on rap, which is really nice. And so they're pretty well-rounded out team. We have 2 coaches for vocal and 2 for dance, 1 for rap, and then even the host is a singer who we find out later on apparently is going to have a hand in evaluating the contestants. And so I feel like it's better that the host is not involved in this stuff, because I feel like when the host is not involved in the judging, the individual contestants or trainees can relate to them easier or talk to them or rely on them. But if she is involved in judging, then it kind of makes her kind of intimidating, I feel like. Or the stuff she says, it's kind of like you can't really speak to her that openly. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong on that, but I just feel like I feel like the host should be kind of separated from the coaching. But moving forward, we still find that they're going to be ranked in terms of a letter grade. So, A is the best, and then F is a fail. You can get B, C, and D, which is kind of funny because that's how I ranked them, pre-ranked them as well. But I didn't do it purely on skill. I did it including, I did it on sincerity, confidence, which are the same thing, and then I did it on vocals and dance, which are in one bundle, and then I also did it on visuals, and so I included that as well. And then I did just fine tuning, just deciding. I feel like these guys have the same score, but I'm gonna give this person an edge. So that's how I went through it. And so something actually happened here is that they had a roundtable discussion here, and they just discussed how they were going to judge them. Lee Hung-gi basically says how he's going to judge people vocally is on the color and tone and their potential. And that's actually something that I kind of agree with. If you can hear that this person has a nice sounding voice, you want to develop that. And you don't want to just have people, like anyone can talk, sing to some degree, and then you just have to work on your kind of like vowelization, I guess, in order to get to sound like just good singing instead of talk singing. But when someone has a really nice tone, then that means their potential is so much greater. So at this point, we finally get into performances. And so I'm not going to go through and comment on every single performance here. They do get graded individually, but we don't get to see everyone on the show graded. And so all I did was just kind of go through and track these. But I'll just basically talk about the ones that are most interesting to me or where something interesting happened. So the first group to perform was the youngest. But immediately after them, we got to see Koto and Yui perform. And so these girls came out, and from my impression of their performance, I felt like Yui, her vocal seemed shaky from the start, and Koto was maybe not that good in the lower register, which I thought was really interesting because they were kind of slow dancing. And so I didn't really think that they should be struggling that much vocally. But then after their performance, the judge actually gave both of them a chance to demo. Like, for example, Yui got to sing without dancing. And then Koto got to dance and do something more dynamic than what the song demanded that they did in terms of their chosen performance song. And at this point, I'm thinking they get. This happens all the time, by the way, so this is not like anything new, but I still don't think it's fair that you get to showcase extra. I feel like you should get one chance, because not everyone gets to say, oh, no, I don't agree with this, or, oh, no, I didn't do that well, let me show you what else I can do. I mean, but they always let it happen on these shows, and I don't know why. Like, some people get a chance, some don't. But at least they were fair in that they didn't include that in the scoring. And so they ended up giving both girls a C. But they said they saw potential, but they still had to give strict evaluation in order to motivate them to learn a lesson. And this lesson was don't hold back. And so it seemed like that was a good lesson. I feel like that's kind of fair because they definitely did not choose a song that showcased all their talents. And when they actually performed it, they didn't showcase all their talents. And so I feel like that was good that they didn't just say, oh, these guys, they should be ranked higher because we think they're better than they performed. And so I thought that was pretty cool. Team Nana was actually really interesting because they were talk singing, but singing with feeling. And the dancing was pretty good. And Kokona, I looked at her and I'm like, she's not really like smiling or anything. But despite the subtlety, she's still doing face expressions. Like, you could see her wink. And so that was really interesting to me. But I was like, I would like to see her smiling. And then Hongi mentions this. He's like, you didn't smile during the whole song. And he asks, can you even smile? But she ended up getting a B, which is like pretty good. And then Sarah and I got a C, which I felt like, I feel like Sarah and I should have gotten equal grades. Because they basically just gave Coconut a higher grade because they had a vibe about her, right? But I'm not sure you can really point out any reason why. They're just like, oh, she has some naivety to her, but she's expressing some kind of. They said it was her vibe, really. And so I was just like, I vibe check people too, but I felt like Serena, she did perform slightly better than Coconut. And so she shouldn't have gotten a C, she got a B. But I did think it was interesting that despite Kokona's stoicism, that she still did express herself in a way, and it sounded pretty decent for talk singing. So this is Team Aoharu, and this is the one with Reina in it, Suzuki Reina. She's in my top five, I think, and I did notice that she was kind of a little bit intense here, and it kind of reflected, I think, in her grade. And so she got a B. But actually, the Ebihara Suzumi, who was just like one of the singer with the guitar, she got an A. And so this group did. I feel like they did pretty well. Reina should have relaxed a bit, but I feel like the group did pretty good overall. But in terms of the ranking, they actually got across the board. So Ebihara Suzumi got A, Nana Reina got B's, Shion and Mimi got C, and then Misaki got a D, which is kind of sad for her. But they had a kind of a wide range. But I thought they did pretty good overall. I didn't think anyone should get a D. Eventually, Team Wing Bell Moon with Sakura and Miyu was in it. They came out, and in my opinion, everyone did okay when they actually performed. And they sounded okay as well. Now, during this performance, Sakura and Miyu, she was like performing, and I thought she did okay. But the trainers were saying that she looks tense. And then they asked why, and she ended up getting emotional. And basically, she admitted that when they were practicing and working on the stuff, she had no confidence and she was pressured. I guess it's basically because this is like her third show I've seen her on, and she couldn't debut, and basically the judges gave her some advice and said, you really just can't fake it. You can't pretend to be confident. You just gotta find out like what's going on. You just gotta express yourself, take a chance, be enthusiastic about it. And then they said that she looks prettier when she does it. Now I don't understand that terminology, what it means, but I guess they would just say that you can connect with her more because she's being sincere. And when she's like too ice queened, then you can't connect with it, and you don't feel that connection. And so, regardless of like what they were saying to her, which was like giving you every reason to be upset and stuff, she ended up ranking with an A. And then Yamamoto Suzu also got an A, and she's 16, by the way. She was like this girl here. She's 16 and she got an A. And then Hidaka Hazuki, the other girl, she ended up getting a C, which I thought like was a pretty far dip from the other girls, and she was upset about that, I think, too. In the background, but she said she expected it, but she kind of wanted to do better. And I thought it was kind of like, I don't think they were that bad. So why is she getting a C? I mean, I guess there's some kind of like this is kind of a conspiracy theory a little bit, but it seems like they are controlling the outcome a little bit. There is some kind of filter, and they're gonna use whatever reasoning to keep people out unless they have really like extremely strong talent. So you gotta have some extremes and potentials that the coaches can see, but then if you're just mediocre, then certain things gonna work against you. So then we came to the cool girls after that, and obviously my number one is in this group, and she ended up ranking a C, so she didn't do so well. Actually, the person who did the best is Takame Ayane, who apparently even the chat knew that she had like a great voice. Now I don't know who she is, but I did not rank her very high, by the way. I ranked her pretty low, and like part of that's just because I didn't see any of that in her 1 minute intro or her fan cam, and also I probably didn't rank her very high visually either. But the lowest person who was ranked according to the show was Sakuraba Haruka, who got an F, right? But Ayane got an A, and then the rest of the team got C's and D's, which was like, I felt like they had a good voice in unison, better than any other group singing in unison so far. They did otherwise okay, but then like someone missed a high note, and they kind of cracked, and so that was the only flaws I saw in this. And so I was kind of surprised by these rankings. I didn't know what they meant, but hopefully they overcome them later on. And then the last group, well, not the second last group to perform is G Triangle, and they seem to be like slightly foreign, but not really foreign. I think they're just like maybe from working overseas. I don't know. I'm not really sure. But apparently Aruha here got third in ranking. And in my opinion, she didn't do very well vocally. And despite the ranks, I feel like she was overranked by the judges at the end of this as well. They danced okay, but in my opinion, Amelie and Emmy were doing pretty good, and they were stable as well. But just judges were saying we just didn't feel it. That's all. But I'm like, what about someone who makes you feel bad? Like Aruha was not singing that well. Her voice was like really shrill, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the sound of it. But she seemed after this they were like apparently the judges have insider knowledge so they can ask leading questions. And she was basically more of a dancer than a singer, and she choreoed it, and that gave her an A ranking. And I was like, really? She got an A ranking? Like she gave a like I would say that's a D level performance she gave, but because she choreoed it, they gave her an A. That was kind of like I don't know. I felt left field, and the chat agrees. By the way, I was watching the chat, and they're like, "This is like backwards." Like Emmy and Emily got D's when they should have gotten probably like C or B, and then Aruha, who did worse than them, she got like an A. I mean, that's like a huge advantage just for being the one to choreo it. But I guess they were trying to say that she had leader potential. But if she sings that badly, I was just like, it's almost like irredeemable. I don't know. Everyone said in the chat that the ranking was backwards for this performance. So I thought that was interesting. And then the next performance was the last performance. But they don't actually get to perform. Obviously, it's got the two idols in it, Kasahara Momona and Kato Kokoro. They gave us a cliffhanger ending, and that was basically where it left off. And so that was basically the first episode of, well, I'm not going to say it. It's so long to say. Produce 101 Japan, Season 3, The Girls. That was the first episode. And so I liked it. It was interesting. It was long. It was like 2 hours and 20 minutes. Just like less than that. But it was interesting to me to watch. I liked it. I thought that a lot of the girls, even though I ranked them kind of abruptly and kind of like based on very little information, I was always surprised by a lot of them, and I think they did very well. And some are like rising already in my rankings just based on like just enjoying what they are doing on the show or just seeing them and seeing that oh, I like this person, the way the vibe they give me, I like them, and so I like that a lot of people are kind of surprising me. I've always liked that in the show. So if you watch my reviews of these shows, you'll know I'm always like that. But this is a different format, by the way. I'm kind of like pausing and kind of cutting into just the notes I have here to try to make it more brief, because this is a 2-hour show. It's a lot to cover. I only take 17 minutes if I do half an hour shows like America to Korea. But in this case, this is a 2-hour and 20-minute show, and so I tried to pause it and I know that I didn't pause properly at some parts, so I had to edit the video later. And that might have lost some stuff I said as well, because I either unpaused it improperly or something. But so far, I just like the show. Hopefully you guys like this format. If you don't like this format, let me know. If you'd like me to plan it out a little bit more, or if you miss me recapping every single performance and giving thoughts on every single performance, let me know in the comments. But for the most part, I didn't really want to comment on every single performance, because a lot of it was kind of like not that great, or some of it was kind of like just passable, and I didn't agree with a lot of the rankings anyways. But just the stuff that was most interesting and stood out, I felt like that was worth mentioning. But anyways, I guess that's it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comment box down below. And also, if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing, and then I'll see you in the next video.